To Love, Chapter 11, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction, written, voiced, and thumbnail drawn by me, EBRX. If you haven't heard the first 10 chapters, or you've perhaps forgotten what happened because it has been a while, make sure to go check those out again. But please enjoy this extra long chapter apology, Set to Love, Chapter 11. Looking alive as always. Hope I didn't keep you up too late. Marinette, still caught between sleep and consciousness, barely registered his voice. The hotel lobby was loud, but it did nothing to wake her. She tuned the noise out like static. "I am a zombie," she groaned, throwing her head back and downing the coffee in 5 seconds. "Don't you have a song about that?" "Zombies?" "Yeah." "I feel like I became a zombie, not alive, but I'm still walking." Even though Marinette was barely awake, she still had the presence of mind to not mention that song was her most played on last year's Spotify Wrapped. Because that would be weird, right? "You've listened to my music a lot, haven't you?" Luka smirked, taking a measured sip of his coffee and patting her head. "Oh, this is strong coffee." "No, it's not," Marinette replied, grateful she could dodge Luka's question. Why did she feel so awkward admitting she was a fan of his music? Like, seriously, who isn't a fan of Luka Couffaine? "That's surprising. I always thought of you as a latte girl," Marinette snorted. "In the fashion industry, I needed caffeine concentrate practically injected into my bloodstream. And drinking too much milk makes me nauseous. So eventually, I got over the bitterness of a long black." Luka gestured for her to take the booth couch as he settled into the old, uncomfortable wooden chair with no cushion. "I suppose you also like strong alcohol?" "Nope, never had a drop in my life." Marinette shook her head, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. Luka turned to face her, eyebrows raised in surprise. "Really? So you've just developed a high espresso tolerance?" "I hold my espresso well, thank you very much. It's a skill." Marinette lifted her chin in exaggerated pride. Luka laughed, turning his head to look out the window onto the street. "So you want to head out for breakfast?" "Depends. What's on the menu?" Luka's hands immediately went into jazz mode. "Breakfast dumplings." "Deal." The two walked out of the hotel and 3 minutes down the street to the nearest stall. It was only 7 in the morning, but the air was already thick with humidity. "Have you deciphered it yet?" Luka asked, smiling at her. Marinette blinked out of her tired trance. "Deciphered what?" "The menu." "Oh, right." Marinette followed Luka's gaze to the board in front of them. A long list of supposedly dumplings that, unfortunately, had no French or English translations. Hence, supposedly. Because life doesn't come with subtitles. She let out a breath. "I have no idea what it says." Luka placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Shall we point and pray?" "It may be our only option." They approached the cellar, bracing themselves for confusion and a little embarrassment, until a man stepped up beside them. "6 centimes bao, please," Adrien said, of course in perfect Mandarin, already handing over cash before the duo could even blink. "Thanks, dude." Luka greeted him with a fist bump. "No worries, you guys have to try these while we're here," Adrien said, taking the dumplings from the cellar and handing them out. They were soup dumplings with thick, crusty skins, pan-fried and fluffy. So basically heaven in a bun. Luka pointed at Adrien's dumpling. "That's a lot of chili oil in yours, man." "Spicy is exactly what I need to wake me up after a long night," Adrien said in between bites, clearly trying to hide his struggle while eating as fast as possible. "So, Agreste couldn't handle spice. Weakling." "You were up late?" Marinette finally acknowledged him. Adrien sighed. "Such is the life of a director. I didn't have that much work to do, but it's hard to sleep when you're stressed, so I just try to keep myself busy instead of thinking about it." Marinette nodded, making no effort to continue the conversation. Well, at least he was talking to her like a human now. The shoot went fine. Marinette stayed in the background, trying to do her job while also staying out of the way. The girls of the department spent most of their time talking about the crew dinner and their outfits. Even one of the producers joined in. Marinette offered a few nods and half smiles, but mostly kept her head down, folding costumes, lint rolling jackets, and actually making herself useful. It was just after Monsieur Agreste called a break when Chloé breezed past the rack Marinette was straightening. A coffee in one hand, a phone in the other, looking effortlessly polished in oversized sunglasses despite being indoors. You know, you don't have to look like a ghost to do your job, Chloé said, not even looking up from her phone. Marinette tensed, pausing mid-fold. I'm not acting like anything. You're walking around like someone's gonna throw something at you. Maybe because I'm trying to keep my job? Chloé rolled her eyes and took a sip of her coffee. We all mess things up. You're not special, Dupain-Cheng. You don't think I haven't snapped at the AD for being a jerk before? Or telling the gaffer to get a grip? At least 3 background actors had the wrong earrings in that shot yesterday. And you know what? The world didn't end. Marinette blinked. Was that a confession? Chloé gave her a dry look. I'm just saying, stop acting like you're one mistake away from being kicked out. It's not a good look. Marinette crossed her arms. Funny, coming from you. You made it your hobby to point out my mistakes for years. Yeah, whatever. Chloé tossed her hair. But you're here now. Adrien's not as cold or stuck up as he seems. If he were, he wouldn't have brought on such a young, inexperienced team. So stop shrinking. With that, she walked off, her ponytail swishing behind her. What was that? Marinette didn't have that much time to process that interaction before a sharp whistle from across the soundstage pulled her attention. Marinette, monitor check. Right. She quickly tucked away a stray pin into her wrist pouch and jogged over to the cluster of people huddled near the director's tents, where the playback monitor was the center of everyone's attention. It wasn't a complex scene, set-wise, just a warehouse with lighting and actors doing most of the heavy lifting. Still, she had to check the monitor for continuity, making sure shirts crumpled the right way between takes, that stray hairs didn't magically disappear or reappear. It should have been simple, but the monitor area was crowded, and unfortunately for Marinette, she was the shortest person there, unable to see the screen, even on her tiptoes. With a resigned sigh, she tapped on the shoulder of the man in front of her. Hey, could I squeeze in here? For someone known as the superhero of luck, Marinette was comically unlucky. Monsieur Agreste turned to her, blinked, said absolutely nothing, and then turned back to the screen. Crap! Marinette had just asked the director to move for her. Ugh, what was her life? Hot and frazzled, she blurted. Oh, no, sorry, forget that, all good. She gave him a cheesy smile, but Monsieur Agreste wasn't even looking. I'll just go, fix the creases, don't mind me. Marinette huffed and slipped into the bathroom stall, grateful for a moment to crash out in peace. At least he didn't seem mad at her. Was that progress? Marinette wasn't one for wishful thinking, so she dramatically facepalmed herself. I'm so out of this. Tiki piped up from her bag. And you still have to buy a dress for tomorrow. We already established that Cat and I were doing that tonight. Stop stressing me out, Tiki. Yeah, but you haven't asked him yet. Fine, I'll message him. Marinette pulled out her phone and opened Discord. You exchanged the Discords? Tiki was flabbergasted. Well, it's a good, relatively anonymous way to keep in touch. It's not a big deal. Marinette, I cannot believe you. Marinette ignored her and sent the message, then scrolled through Instagram for a bit until I'm a cat ooh replied to your message. Sure, can we throw in dinner too? He replied already? Cat is so unemployed. Tiki snorted and retreated to her bag. Marinette sighed, tucking her phone away. Let's just get this day over with. Marinette hadn't really thought through the practical side of going dress shopping with Cat Noir, which is why she stood there, exasperated, as Cat Noir tried, and failed, to hold back a giggle while she emerged from the dressing room. I didn't have any other ideas, do you? Ladybug crossed her arms and scowled. Cat Noir held his hands up in surrender. Sorry. It's just that a yellow dress over your suit was not what I was expecting. Ladybug pouted. It clashes, doesn't it? Cat stood up from the stool he'd been sitting on and patted her on the shoulder as she turned to look in the mirror. With your suit, yes, but I'm sure it would look nice without it. It goes well with your hair. That's what I was betting on, but I think this one's a no for me. She pulled the curtain close and tried on a few more dresses. Most didn't sit right, or just weren't the vibe once they were on a moving, breathing body instead of a hanger. When she finally found one that looked nice and fit well, she realised she'd been in the dressing room for more than 15 minutes without a peep from Cat. She opened the curtain, and sure enough, Cat was still there, playing games on his baton. What are you playing? Cat's head shut up at her voice before his eyes widened as he gave her an up and down. That looks great on you, Bug. Marinette blushed under her mask. Thanks, kitty. He stepped closer and saw he was playing Tetris. Of course. Cat stood up, clearing his throat. Red's always been your colour. The draping is nice, too. Yeah, it's a shame that I don't have access to a sewing machine and a mannequin here. I could have made this myself for a quarter of the price. Ladybug groaned. Here goes my savings. You sew? Yeah, it's kind of my job. Not at the moment, but I can picture that, Cat said, looking into her eyes. I always thought Ladybug would do something creative and hands-on. Really? Yeah. The air felt warm. I'm gonna go take this off, Ladybug said, turning to head back into the dressing room. You know you could just take it off here, Cat said with a laugh. You're wearing your suits. Yeah. Ladybug scurried to take it off and left it in Cat's arms. Hold on to it while I... She trailed off. Give Tiki some snacks. She slipped back behind the curtain and took a deep breath to cool down. Well, at least this was a success, despite the heat. Was she the only one sweating in here? Why were her cheeks burning? You have a hopeless crush, Marinette. Shut up. I'm so stupid in love, Tiki sang in a teasing lilt. Marinette fought the urge to mumble along. Let's get married in Vegas. We don't need a guest list. I don't want to think too much. Tiki, can we not sing Luka's songs right now? Marinette groaned, fluffing her hair in the mirror. Now it's going to be stuck in my head all night, while I'm with Cat Noir. Oh, why don't you message Luka and tell him it's stuck in your head? Tiki was smug as she floated around her. Or are you too busy with your cats? You know what, Tiki? I will message Luka, Marinette said, grabbing her phone with theatrical determination. Because I'm a composed, rational adult who does not let her Kwame bully her into denial. Never. Tiki giggled and zipped into Marinette's bag, satisfied. Hopeless. When she emerged from the dressing room, Cat was standing there, the dress neatly folded inside a bag. He held it out to her. Come on, we can go. He paid for the dress? Cat, you paid? How much was it again? She pulled out the receipt from the bag and inspected it. 1,350 Chinese yen? That's like 160 euro. Cat shrugged. So? It's fine. Don't worry about it. Ladybug racked her brain, trying to think of a way to pay him back discreetly. She knew Cat, being a gentleman, wouldn't accept cash if she offered it. Thank you, she said softly. I'll sew you something one day, if you want. Cat's eyes lit up. That sounds great. Thanks, I'll hold you to that. Well, we'd better get out of here. I'm hungry. Ladybug gently swung the bag in her hand absent-mindedly. Right. Yeah, I have a place in mind already. Ladybug raised an eyebrow. Do tell. Korean barbecue. I don't know, that's not very discreet for superheroes. He shrugged. True, but we could just order some stew and side dishes to take away and find a rooftop. Deal. Cat took the liberty of heading into the restaurant to order for both of them, while Ladybug scoped out a place to eat. She settled on the most iconic building in Shanghai, the Oriental Pearl Tower. Essentially being China's answer to the Eiffel Tower, it was the obvious spot for Ladybug and Cat Noir. Aside from China's own Eiffel Tower copy, of course. Cat landed beside her with a thump, balancing 3 bags of takeaway. Good choice, he said with a grin. But don't you feel a little nervous about sliding off this giant ball? Nah, we'll be fine. Ladybug pried a bag from his hands. Now, let's see if you made a good choice of meal. I ordered a variety. There'll be something you'll like. It was definitely a variety. Kimchi stew, soybean stew, corn cheese, bulgogi, duck galbi, mandu, chimek. I don't like beer, the foam puts me off. Ladybug scrunched her nose. But I'll eat the fried chicken parts. Me too, alcohol's not really my thing. Cat had already begun digging into the soybean stew. I've never tried it. Ladybug rummaged deeper into the bags. Soju? She asked, holding up a small bottle. Well, I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I grabbed one of every beverage they had. Of course Cat would. Always thoughtful. Always looking at her like she'd hung the moon. Should I try some? She asked, reading the bottle label. Sparkling grape. Cat offered her a piece of mandu, urging gently. If you want to, but you should eat first. Sweet. Look at him, always watching out for her. Curious, she poured a small amount into the palm of her hand. I have cups, you know, he reminded, raising an eyebrow. No need. She tipped the liquid back. It's sweet. Like you. A knowing smile spread across his face. Though soy-flavoured soju is dangerous because of that. You forget it's 25% alcohol. And it's cheap, which doesn't help. She shook her head with a grin. Well, I think I'll have to stop there. I've got an addictive personality already. And it kind of tastes like medicine. They ate and chatted like the old friends they were, food scattered between them as the night deepened. The city lights only grew brighter, its LED lights increasing in intensity as the sky got darker. Cat talked and talked, while Ladybug just mostly listened, happy and relieved to be with him again, like this, after all these years. Did you know this tower has a roller coaster inside? And it's used for telecommunication, like the Eiffel Tower? Maybe it was the food, maybe it was a tiny sip of soju she'd taken, or maybe just the company. But Ladybug felt unexpectedly comfortable. Too comfortable. So much so that her head found its way onto Cat Noir's shoulder, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. You want to know what I regret most about moving away? Cat said nothing, only hummed softly in response. Well, leaving you, definitely. But also leaving everything. My friends, my family, my life. I left all of that and you. And it's not like I had the best time in New York. The first 6 months were hell. I wanted to go back to Paris so badly that every time I saw a plane in the sky, I wished I was on it. I cried every night. On every phone call with my parents, I stopped all my hobbies and stopped doing the things that made me happy. Ladybug glanced up at Cat, who was quietly nodding, so she pressed on. Cat was always good at knowing when she just needed to be listened to. But after month 6, it got better. I felt like I'd finally figured it out. My English was still gruff but usable. I started making more friends, going out more, I ate normally, I did the things I liked, advocated for myself at work. Still, I never stopped missing Paris. but it didn't cripple me like before. Then, before I knew it, I had to go back home when my company let me go. They said they couldn't afford to make my position permanent. She stopped for a moment, the words catching in her throat as tears threatened to spill. When I look back on that year, it wasn't the dream internship, best year of your life that everyone said it would be. Half of that year was depression like I'd never experienced it before, and I regret that. I regret putting myself through that. Her words came out more like sobs the longer she spoke. Cat Noir pulled her close, holding her against his chest. I get it. I do, Bug. His fingers gently threaded through her hair, a gesture he'd never managed before, back when she wore pigtails in their youth. I'm sorry. You have nothing to be sorry about. I left you. I left you and I suffered for it. You left me, but you didn't deserve to suffer. Ladybug glanced up at the neon glow of the tower over his shoulder, her voice breaking as she spoke. I wasn't the only one who suffered. Some of my co-workers in the internship program went through the same thing. Micromanaging bosses who invaded your privacy and personal life, emotionally abusive just to squeeze more work out of you, being forced to follow processes that made no sense, things that could have been done better another way. They dug deep, even getting involved into your friendships and life outside of work. Everything was criticized. I couldn't stay in her good books for more than half a day before something came up. It was hell that followed me from work to home because my existence in New York depended on her and my job. There was no getaway. Cat cupped her face gently, meeting her eyes. Tell me you weren't stuck with that for the whole year. Ladybug shook her head. No, I wasn't. About 3 months in, I switched to another boss for a different project, but with an understanding that I'd return to the old one after 3 months. I never did. I spilled everything to my new boss. She was lovely, and she talked to her superior to keep me on her team. Each day got better from there, but it still took months to recover. I don't think I fully healed until I got back to Paris. Cat whispered, I wish I could have been there to support you. Ladybug smiled faintly, her arms finding their way around his waist. I was a fresh fashion graduate, wide-eyed and full of dreams. Nothing could have stopped me when I got accepted into that prestigious New York fashion house. So that's why you sew, Cat said, a warm smile spreading across his face. Yeah, and after all that, I'm still reliant on gig work and sneaky handouts from my parents just to pay rent. Cat raised an eyebrow. Sneaky handouts? Technically, it's pay from working at their bakery, Ladybug said quietly. Their business is booming. Top bakery in Paris. But I don't like relying on them. Still, they slip cash into my wallets when I'm not looking. Like I wouldn't notice. Cat's eyes widened with recognition. Tom and Sabine's. Ladybug didn't reply, but her silence said everything. She knew she'd slipped, but didn't want to explain or face the consequences of her own words. And for him, the boy who found himself on her balcony, sharing late-night pastries, without knowing that he was with his superhero partner all those years ago, that quiet answer was enough. Oh, Marinette, Cat whispered, pulling her closer. I had no idea. Ladybug's breath hitched as tears slipped past her control, dampening her cheeks. And now I'm here, working in the art department of a film, not sure when I'm gonna get fired because honestly, I should have been fired ages ago. Do you know Adrien Agreste? He's a director, and I've definitely messed up too many times. I bet he's only keeping me on for some power play, or to catch more mistakes so he can tell his father to blacklist me from the fashion world for good. Cat's mouth opened, but all that came out was a shaky breath. I'm sure it's not like that. Maybe he's just giving you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he sees that you're a good person and doesn't want to let you go over small things. Ladybug shook her head, voice bitter. He wouldn't know me as a good person. The only reason he knows me at all is because my friend put my name forward. I'd never met him before all this. Cat gently took her shoulders, his voice firm yet loving. Anyone would see you as a good person, Marinette. And I'm not just saying this because you're Ladybug. You were the one who opened her arms for me late at nights when no one else would. You're generous, loving, and have an unwavering sense of justice. I see that. She looked away. I don't know. They stayed like that for what could have been hours. Ladybug's quiet tears slowly fading as exhaustion took over. Her breaths grew soft and uneven as she slipped into sleep, head resting against him. Cat carefully lifted her bridal style, the movement waking her up just enough to register his words. Oh, Marinette, I want you here. You were the one I ran to when my father's anger made home feel unbearable, he whispered. And now that I know, I'm never letting you go. Whether she would chalk it up to a dream or her own imagination, it was something she wouldn't remember when she woke. I love you, Marinette. Sleep well. Nope, she wouldn't even remember that. Thank you so much for listening. That was Set to Love, Chapter 11. There is more to come, so don't worry. The hiatus is over. We are going to try upload as much as possible. Not once a week uploads as I did when I was in Australia, but I will be back in Australia in 6 months, so those are coming, don't worry. But I'm going to keep trying to release stuff as often as I possibly can here. But otherwise, in 6 months, we're doing weekly uploads again. So stick around, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!